Good evening, everyone. Welcome back. Today is Thursday, and it is episode, I did not remember, 382, I think. Well, we will be talking tonight about some very important topics, of course. I'm always late every day, it seems like. I couldn't really help it today. I really tried. I did. I don't know. Today was a weird day. My computer wasn't working for work. This one's fine. Of course, I spent $2,000 on it, so it better work. Otherwise, what the hell? But anyways, maybe my Wi-Fi wasn't working, although part of it was kind of my fault, due to cleaning and it got disconnected mid-work, but whatever. Hey, we don't talk about that. So, everything else is great. We have war in Iran that will happen soon. We have war in Taliban, Afghanistan, and Pakistan that will also be happening. That is happening literally right now, as we speak. So we'll be talking about that as well tonight, as well as other important topics related to Bitcoin and crypto.
Yeah.
So, yep, we will go ahead and get into it. I just want to connect my OBS over here. All right, there we go. Okay, Bitcoin's current price is 67,380. So we've decayed. We haven't gone above 70,000. I said I do not expect Bitcoin to be above 70,000 for this week. I expect it to happen sometime at some point next week. And then for the next 2 weeks after that, sometime in March, mid-March, we could start seeing potentially a rise to around 80,000. If we see it a bit earlier, be nervous, because I mean, the sooner we approach 80,000, yeah, the breakout will be stronger because obviously we will have enough strength to do such a movement. But I don't know if I would fully trust it, because as high as we rise, the harder that we will correct. And the highest, by the way, like even if we have an enormous breakout by some point this week or next week, I wouldn't expect it above 83,000, 84,000, let's say. So that's what I see for the markets, but I feel like it's going to be a slow and gradual growth as we do start to recover some lost territory, because what the heck even happened over here? Why are we even down here? This is like prices of Bitcoin before Trump got elected. I mean, we might as well not even have Trump elected, is what some people are saying. They're not really happy with how the administration is going. I still kind of am. I don't mind it too much, you know? Hey, better than Kamala, I guess. But honestly, what can we expect at this point from US politics? We're still waiting on a lot of stuff that he has promised us for the crypto industry, right? Mainly the strategic Bitcoin reserve. Yeah, it got announced, but we got a crash when it happened because, cool, we have a Bitcoin strategic reserve, but how are you going to add more Bitcoins to it? Where is our reducing capital gains tax on crypto? Where is our market structure bill to stop the manipulations from going on? All that kind of stuff, right? Questions that are left in our head that will never get responded. Cynthia Loomis is leaving. Where is the rate cuts? I don't know. Will Kevin Warsh do the rate cuts as we hope he will? The odds are not pointing in our favor. We have fears of stagflation. We have fears of war. Fair enough. Part of the reason why we're down here, if you care or asked. So, for this week, I just expect more choppiness within the 60s range, of course. I don't expect it to be above 70,000. I expect it to happen next week, so we'll see how prices develop by then. The good news is that we do have an uptrend in our favor in the super trends. Do we trust it? I feel like we can trust it. If we indeed bottomed out at 59, 60,000, and this recent bottom at 62,449, I'm willing to accept it, you know? It's a more shallower uptrend than whatever downtrend line we have up next, which this one is more likely to be broken. But then, I feel like this one would be more strong compared to these other ones. It's all just a game of which angle these trend lines are at and which ones are more likely to be broken. It's all about a game of probability in these markets. That's what we do. We just try to predict the future with zero knowledge, and that is why we do what we do. But people make money from it. I have, and then I lost it all. And then I'm on my way back. Don't worry about me. I will be fine. Let's move on. Ethereum. Still managing to stay above 2,000. That's okay. Ultimately, we did bleed out a little bit below that. 1,974 was our ultimate lowest. A couple hours ago, right? Still worried about this downtrend line. Also part of the reasons why I don't think Bitcoin is going to rise above 70,000. Altcoins should also not make a big rise. I've done the comparison extensively at this point. I think you guys kind of get it. How low could Ethereum go from here if Bitcoin does maintain its uptrend? As of right now, I'd say 1,800 bottom for Ethereum. Makes most sense to me. If we are to expect uptrend Bitcoin and continued rising movement in the upcoming weeks, yeah, I don't see Ethereum going below 1,800. That's the enough, room for it to kind of make its movements that it needs to. So that's good. Let's move on to Solana here. Double fake out, uptrend, back to downtrend, back to uptrend. Downtrend invalidates, doesn't even matter, it's on the rise right now. Sorry, uptrend invalidates. But we still do have to worry about this downtrend line, which is breakable because we do have the uptrend, super trend in our favor, which is a good thing. And also, it aligns perfectly with the rise that I expect to see in Bitcoin, and that gives the license for the altcoins to also start making similar, if not bigger, rises. I don't know, sometimes we still see altcoins underperform Bitcoin, as phenomenal as that sounds. Hyperliquid, $30 is the resistance that I'm looking for. It's technically in a downtrend, but I'm willing to ignore it for the time being. I feel like it's a temporary fake out thing, especially if I'm expecting Bitcoin to be on the rise in the upcoming weeks. We could see Hyperliquid potentially rise to 33, I think is safest. Moving on. Litecoin, $55.74 right now. Uptrend in our favor finally. Worried about the downtrend line? Don't worry about it too much. Yeah, potential decay for the rest of this week. I don't expect a big move, like I said. But as soon as Bitcoin starts picking back up here, Litecoin would also start off with its uptrend, which should look something like that. So once again, this opens the room for Litecoin movement toward the upside, which I'm very excited to see. Then you obviously do have a resistance here at 70. Just looking at on the chart itself, it's pretty obvious. You got something going on here at 70. So if we're to expect a rise on Litecoin, that's as high as I'm willing to let it go to, for calling danger of a potential reversal. I don't know if we can draw another downtrend line. I really don't think. What is even going on over here? Okay, that is valid, yeah. Yeah, so there's not really much else here for Litecoin, but I'm optimistic about it. We're breaking out of the downtrend line. It looks good. We have permission to drop to around 51, and you'll still be totally fine. Litecoin in the 50s plus should be good. I don't expect it to drop below 50. Especially if I'm expecting Bitcoin to be on the rise. Same deal with SUI. It's actually kind of lagging in my opinion. I would rather it be above $1 and in the uptrend, which it should happen soon, by next week. Same deal as I expect things to rise. And yeah, we've got a good uptrend going on for it. Invalidate's currently at 80, but that's also on the rise. So, subject to change. BitTensor maintaining its uptrend. And I think we're weakening this downtrend line. I think we're just pushing it a little too much at this point. I'm willing to let it go. Downtrend gone for BitTensor. You have my stamp of approval. My permission to continue rising. Go crazy. How high can we go realistically, though? I see maybe 250. I don't really trust 250. You know what? Maybe yes. 250 makes... I don't know. I'm saying 250 because of, like, psychological levels. And also we did hit the support here, but then we kind of broke immediately through it, and then also, like, rose immediately past it and broke immediately through it below once again. So it's like, which one do we really pay attention to? What I'm more confident in doing is just draw Fibonacci's at this point. Where even is the all-time high? Is this actually an all-time high? I'm sure it is. 2024, we hit an all-time high. And then ultimate bottom is there. You're immediately looking at like 287 bit tensor. But by that point, I would rather look at 300 being a more important level. First, we have to like break above 200 on bit tensor, so there's still a lot of barriers to go through. So I think you gotta like focus more on smaller charts, honestly. And this is not giving me enough like confirmation. I don't see why 287 would be a relevant point. We just completely ignore it is what it seems like. So I think I'm willing to ignore the Fibonacci. Unless I draw it from maybe a bit of a smaller time frame, like from this high to this low. Then you could, because like we do need to get confirmation that we can break above 300, and 300 was ultimately our high. So I feel like I'd probably be more confident drawing one from here. Where is the bottom? There. Now we're talking. 222, 241, 268. And then ultimately the 302. We'll see how price behaves. I'll keep this drawn here for the moment being, and we'll follow it closely. Next stop, 200. Moving on. Litecoin. No, Link. Chain Link. $9.06. Uptrend. Yeah, I'm going to draw one. From here to here. Invalidates at 806, but I think it's obviously going to be on the rise here. I do expect up movement, and I do expect this downtrend line to finally be broken at some point next week, similar to what we're going to expect for Bitcoin. Which means that Chainlink above $10, absolutely possible next week or week after. I'm starting to see some up movement, little by little, before we ultimately get in front of a larger downtrend line, which I don't see where that would be yet for Chainlink. I guess that's part of my job here, is to have a look at that. Where would you even draw one? I feel like this is the more important one. 15 itself, and the weekly chart, that does kind of make more sense. And it's also there psychologically as well, 1550. Because a rise all the way up to 20-something, in the 20s, for what? We'd be in a bullish uptrend for the weekly chart, and if Bitcoin doesn't do that first, why should Chainlink do that? Bitcoin can do that. All we gotta do is rise above 100k again on the weekly chart. Well, not even that much, 93k, really. We've been too red for so many weeks. I think it's about a time we get a deserved rise, right? At least a dead cat bounce, at least to this point at 80,000. If you zoom out of the weekly chart, my idea doesn't seem so radical, wouldn't you agree? We'll see. Hedera. Well, this looks like a sandwich. Yep, uptrend is there still. Look where we slowed down. That's pretty perfect. I don't think I drew this yesterday. Yesterday, 3 p.m. No, I absolutely would have drawn this. I don't know. We're slowing down at that point, though, but I do feel like, you know, since uptrend is in our favor, this will be broken. I mean, we're already testing it here and kind of poking above it. So downtrend should be gone for Hedera, which means you could expect some upside movement. How high? How high are you? Hi, how are you? We'll see. I guess we'll monitor it by the point we get next week pivot levels. They should be more spread out since we are being more ambitious, especially with how prices moved in the past couple of weeks. Yeah, I feel like new pivot levels should be a bit more spread out. That should give us a better idea of where to expect the price. Because right now I'm seeing a line at every cent, like multiple times per cent, which I really hate Hedera's price per coin. Like, I'm not understanding that 10 cents and the decimals after the cents, if you know what I mean. They're not even decimals, they're like tenths or whatever. Oh, get this out of the way. Don't scan that QR code, it's a scam. Monero, not really doing the move that I expected it to yet. Still chance to do that. Maybe by next week, honestly. I feel like I should push this over till next week. That makes more sense. Because if I'm expecting choppiness on Bitcoin's price for the rest of this week, why should Monero make a larger move, right? by next week, I do expect Bitcoin to kind of start making its movements again. Hello, DNM. I'm expecting a bullish or bearish day tomorrow. It's a good question. Tomorrow, I think I'd go with... I don't know. It's really going to depend because we are going to get economic data. So I'm not going to be able to accurately predict how that economic data will impact the markets. Obviously, I'll know what will happen, but we would have to get the corresponding data for that. So it would really be data dependent, is what I feel like. But I don't expect us to be rising above 70,000, like I said, for this week. So despite all that, I think I'm going to stay bearish with it for tomorrow. While we, hover around the 60s, I don't know, 66, 67, I really don't think we're going to get that much movement either way. But then for the week after that, that's when I start expecting Bitcoin to make some moves again. We will have that decision on market structure bill March 1st, or at least a deadline to have these people make up their minds. That could be a catalyst for, the upcoming month, the upcoming week, literally. This month's already over. How crazy is that? Well, to answer your question, then I'd say bearish. I'm going to go with bearish. Because we know we're going to get, like, some weird announcement. Some people are even saying, like, we're waiting until stock market closes Friday evening so that we can go to war with Iran because they've already rejected our negotiation deal. Maybe that's true. I don't know. We'll see. Anyways, so my point still stands also for Monero. We'll see how this plays out. Yeah, more choppiness, more sideways, more down movement for the rest of this week. Next week, I think we'll start making the bigger moves. That's what I think. All right. Let's get into our news. That's all I have for here. Great. Really, there's not that much, but I tried. And we'll do fine. So the biggest part of the news is that Iran rejected all of the American demands, according to Washington Street Journal. They had talks in Geneva, Switzerland again. The U.S. delegation, led by Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, presented Iran with the following demands. Destroyed the 3 primary nuclear facilities, the Fordo, Natanz, and Isfahan. They requested to transfer all remaining enriched uranium to the United States. Wow. They requested to halt all uranium enrichment permanently. Yeah, that's just not going to happen. And to accept a permanent agreement with no expiration date. Obviously, they're not going to accept that. So, what's the point? Another round of indirect talks is planned for early next week in Vienna, so it's not all over yet. Expert-level technical discussions starting on Monday. U.S. officials called today's Geneva session a positive one, even though Iran rejected the key demands to dismantle Fordo, Natanz, and Isfahan, transfer all enriched uranium, and accept permanent zero enrichment rules. So the negotiations are continuing. So there's that little glimmer of optimism that we still have. But that doesn't stop the United States from sending 100,000 tons of American firepower headed straight to Iran's doorstep. CENTCOM chief briefed Trump on Iran military options today. The same day that we're having these peace talks, we're also having this random, Administrator Brad Cooper and Joint Chiefs Chair General Kane presented options to the president, while Kushner and Witkoff were in Switzerland. The diplomats announced progress, and there will be continued technical talks in Vienna, Austria now. Meanwhile, the commander who would actually run the operation was in the Oval Office walking through the targets. Literally like, hey, if all these talks don't work out, here's how you should attack, Mr. President. This is what you should do. You should attack this way. If, of course, these negotiations fail. Which, in my opinion, I think they honestly will. All the stuff that the United States requested, like, come on. Obviously, Iran is going to reject that. What are you thinking? But we'll see what happens, I guess, Monday next week when those talks resume in Vienna, the indirect talks. Why is it always indirect? What, are you scared face-to-face? I don't know what their point is. Some Republicans are probably pushing for Israel to strike first. That's another thing. Giving Trump a political cover to respond as an ally's defender rather than the one who started it. Smart. Yeah, I guess we didn't start the war, Israel did. Same thing as they did last time. And that's going to be the American excuse to step in once again to, I guess, finish the job or do it properly. I don't know. Just an excuse to go to war. A joint US-Israel operation is still the most likely scenario. Yeah. I feel like if an attack is to happen, it will be a joint operation. Breakthrough. Iran says that US talks are moving to technical levels in Vienna. We'll see. We were able to identify the main elements of a possible agreement. There are still differences, but in most cases, we have at least reached a general understanding of how to resolve these issues. Technical teams will meet at the IAEA headquarters to work on the details. Sanctions relief was a central focus. 2 carrier strike groups, 17 F-22s are in Israel, and the biggest buildup since Iraq 2003. Yeah, we do know that. Now they're sending technical teams to Vienna. Either this is real progress, or Tehran is just buying time. Washington will have to decide which. That is also another topic that we've discussed in the past, the fact that Iran is just trying to delay this as much as possible. And giving us the false hope of, like, progress. I really am not sure. A lot of planes flying there, and that's my literal next post. Huge amounts of US Air Force assets are moving toward the Middle East overnight. Dangerous. We don't know for sure if that's because we're actually planning a strike, maybe Friday. But I don't know, or maybe it's just an intimidation tactic, as literally everything has seemed to have been up till now. J.D. Vance commented on this. He said that while military strikes against Iran remain under consideration by President Trump, that there is no chance that such strikes would result in the United States becoming involved in a years-long, drawn-out war. Yeah, guys, it's only going to be a couple of weeks or months. Don't worry. Still. Iranian Armed Forces spokesperson said that Trump's threats are mere verbal display and political imagination. Yeah, they're calling our bluff, I guess. Our forces are fully prepared to monitor any military move by the enemies. We will destroy American soldiers and their equipment if they initiate confrontation. Big talk for small guy. Now, Iran is a big country, so I don't know. We'll see what happens. The House Democrats, they're also putting the force vote to block Trump from waging war on Iran. Same deal with, this was what we were talking about last week about, I think it was Thomas Massie and Ro Khanna, once again, trying to get the Democrats, I guess, to agree to, for this, literally this, to stop Trump from waging war. But can they really do any change? I really don't think so. But whatever. On the other side of the Middle East, the Pakistan government, or Minister of Defense, Khawaja Asif, says Pakistan is now at war with Afghanistan. Okay, what is going on? They're literally attacking each other. Even though they, you know what, I'm just not going to comment further. So, Pakistan's defense minister just declared war on Afghanistan. He says our patience has reached its limit. Now it's open confrontation. Now there will be decisive action. This comes after days of escalating violence. Pakistan launched airstrikes on Afghan territory last week. The Taliban responded with large-scale offensive on Pakistani border posts today, and fighting has reportedly spread to Kabul itself. Where is Kabul? Capital of Afghanistan. Why does this look like Gaza? Anyway, yeah, he posted all that on Twitter, and I'm not reading that. Unconfirmed reports of that Pakistani Air Force airstrikes targeted Taliban Supreme Leader Hibatullah Akhundzada, oh my, in Kandahar. Where is this? It's the city in Afghanistan where this guy lives. Okay. Wow, we're calling him out. We're doxing him live on the channel. So, earlier claims said Kabul, but Kandahar is reportedly where Akhundzada is actually based. That detail makes this more plausible. Pakistan struck TTP camps on February 22. Still waiting on credible confirmation, watching this one closely. When was this posted? It was today. So, I don't know why they would actually decide to go to war. I'm pretty sure Afghanistan does not have an air force, so obviously they're going to lose to Pakistan. They confirmed strikes on Kabul were received, at least, by the Afghan Taliban regime. Destroyed military installations belonging to Afghan Taliban regime. Explosions reported in Afghan capital as well. Yeah, they're just going at it. Lovely. And that's what's going on in the Middle East. I don't know why they're fighting each other, but okay, cool. Good luck, I guess. May the best team win. Moving on, Hillary Clinton talked today mainly about the Epstein files. She had this, what do you call this, a press conference news report, trying to defend herself and Bill Clinton from this whole Epstein scandal. They said that they would be testifying today. She said, I don't know how many times I had to say, I did not know Jeffrey Epstein, is what she said. I never went to his island, never went to his home, never went to his offices. But boy, did we love exchanging emails, did we? And my husband is photographed with this man all over the place, is probably what she's saying. Or what she should be saying, I don't know. Are you 100% confident that there isn't anything that Bill Clinton knows about Epstein's crimes? Hillary says, I am. Chronology of connection ended years before anything about Epstein's criminal activities came to light. Grok fact-check that. I'm sure somebody actually replied, Grok fact-check this. No, nobody did. Hillary said a vast majority of people who had contact with Epstein before 2008 did not know what he was doing. So that just criminalizes Howard Lutnick because he still contacted Jeffrey Epstein after 2008 conviction. Reporter asked, why was Ghislaine Maxwell invited to your daughter Chelsea Clinton's wedding? Hillary said, well, she came as a +1, a guest of someone who was invited. I didn't get to choose. Sure. Who is Chelsea Clinton? Just want to know. Hey. Okay. Well, good to know. Anyways, just asking for a friend. I got questioned about Pizzagate as well. Most vile, bogus conspiracy theory is what she's calling it. Yeah, ignore the whole 900 plus Epstein files containing the word pizza. Literally. Hey, did you guys see this as well? The DOJ has reportedly locked the public out of the Epstein library search function with no warning or explanation. So you can't look up Trump anymore. You can't look up Epstein, even though literally his name is everywhere. It will just say no results found, try something else. And you could also type in, I guess, pizza. And now they've removed that function. God knows why. Maybe it's a technical issue, but we'll see. Ah, look at this. Howard Lutnick. Talks about this as well. House Oversight Chairman James Comer has said that it's very possible that Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick will be asked to testify on Epstein, as well as how the Clintons did. And I've talked about Howard Lutnick, and yep, definitely something's going on there. Literally, here he is photographed. Trump's DOJ is quietly removing a photo from the Epstein files of Howard Lutnick on Epstein's island with a group of men. This guy, mind you, said under oath that he only visited the island with his wife and kids, so this removal is sparking major cover-up talk. Yeah, he's caught. I don't know what he's trying to hide. And then here we were talking about cereal. What is this, my guy? Like, that's on you. If you call yourself a victim of this with Stephen Hawking, that's just on you. Sorry. Anyways, it's not all over yet, though. The boss of the World Economic Forum just resigned after deep ties to Jeffrey Epstein were revealed. Emails between Borge Brend and Epstein document discussions on how the World Economic Forum could replace the United Nations. So, yeah, World Economic Forum CEO steps down after the files fallout. Resigns after scrutiny-tied files release. Age of accountability. Okay, great. At least we're getting some resignations happening. After this whole Epstein files release thing. It seems to be Bigger than expected. A lot of important people are in there. High status power people. So there you go. Moving on to crypto news. We did talk about Jane Street being, sued by Terraform Labs for insider trading for dumping Terra Luna before the Terra Luna crash happened, right? We also did have talks before that Jane Street was potentially behind the 10 a.m. manipulation that we were constantly seeing back in the good old days when Bitcoin was someplace near or at 100,000, right? Yeah, anyways. If you think the Jane Street story is limited to just Luna and the 10 a.m. market manipulation, you're wrong. What if Jane Street's intention to crash Luna and UST was something different? In April 2021, FTX bought an 8% stake in Anthropic for $500 million. Dude, it's all just coming full circle now. And we will be talking a lot more about Anthropic again today. I know I've talked about it for the past couple of days, but it's important. FTX was already funneling the customers' money into its sister firm, Alameda Research. Given that FTX founder Sam Bankman-Fried worked at Jane Street for 3 years, Jane Street might have known about this thing. In May 2022, Luna and UST collapsed, and Jane Street was behind that. This collapse led to a massive $12 billion loss for Alameda Research, which caused the FTX collapse. Okay. 1.5 years later, FTX sold its Anthropic stake at $18 billion of valuation. Wait, how much did they buy it at then? 500 million to 18 billion? Dude, you're fine. And guess who was the second largest buyer of this? Jane Street. Aha. Jane Street bought 100 million. Meanwhile, FTX bought 500 million. And it's worth 2.1 billion now. A 21x return in just 2 years. Oh, so they bought it as soon as FTX sold it, I guess, to kind of continue the train. But they bought less, and obviously made less, and obviously at a higher price. So the return wasn't as large as, 500 million to 18 billion. Maybe that is a larger return, I don't know. But more money makes more money, I guess. This bottom line here. Not only that, but Jane Street's head of quantitative research, Craig Falls, also proposed to personally buy around $20 million worth of shares. Whomst is this man? He's the head of quantitative research of Jane Street. Okay. Not sure whether he got him or not, but if he did, that means they would be worth over $400 million today. Yeah, it's not too bad. So Jane Street literally bought the entire crypto market down and made billions in profits. Big if true. Some parts check out. So Sam Bankman-Fried did work at Jane Street. FTX did put that amount of money into Anthropic, and Jane Street did buy those shares from FTX's bankruptcy estate. Anthropic is now at $380 billion worth of value, so they did indeed make that much of a gain. February 2026 lawsuit accuses Jane Street of insider trading that sped up the 2022 Terra UST collapse that we've talked about. The rest about Jane Street engineering the whole crash to tank FTX and snag Anthropic cheap, that's an unproven conspiracy. No evidence of that intent. Jane Street calls the suit desperate. We shall see, pal. Might as well talk about... not this. No, not this. Do we talk about Anthropic now? No, we're not going to. Yeah, we will. Yeah, we will. I'm all over the... everywhere today. Here we go. Anthropic. Yes, let's get to it. Anthropic has rejected the U.S. Pentagon's final offer just 24 hours before the Defense Secretary Hegseth's deadline, per Axios. We talked about they would have their deadline by tomorrow to accept this offer from the United States government to use Anthropic's Claude AI in the U.S. government systems for, I don't know, tracking people, I guess, reasons and stuff like that. I'll read more about it here. Anthropic remains adamant on their AI platform not being used for surveillance of Americans or lethal military missions. They don't want any part of that. We expect a response from the Pentagon soon. Yeah, we'll see what happens, I guess. Anthropic told the Pentagon no. They won't loosen restrictions on Claude for fully autonomous weapons or mass domestic surveillance. The standoff started after questions were raised about how Claude was used in the Maduro raid. Interesting. Pentagon gave Anthropic a Friday 5 p.m. deadline to comply or face the Defense Production Act. They've already declined it, like I said, far in advance. The CEO of Anthropic, Dario Amodei, said, "In a narrow set of causes, we believe AI can undermine rather than defend democratic values. We cannot in good conscience accede to their request." Okay, and yeah, that's about it for that portion of it. They also did release this auto memory feature, which now remembers things across sessions and recalls them later. I mean, this is something that ChatGPT already had, I'm pretty sure, so finally this has been implemented, I guess. Project context, debugging patterns, preferred approaches. It will store that in the memory about you and how you ask your questions to this AI. Same way that ChatGPT does it. I remember there was this trend where it was like, hey, ChatGPT, describe me based off on all of our previous conversations that we had, and it will tell you like, oh, you enjoy coding and playing guitar and weird music. I don't know. Stuff like that, right? So the top AIs from OpenAI, Anthropic, and Google just ran war games and chose nuclear strikes. Okay, we already read that one. Never mind. OpenAI told Canadian lawmakers that it will now refer a banned ChatGPT user to police under updated protocols after failing to detect a second account linked to a suspect in the Tumbler Ridge mass shooting. Remember that? And it said it will strengthen detection systems and direct law enforcement contacts. So your conversations with AI are no longer safe. They never were safe. Anything suspicious gets flagged to authorities, which there was a trans mass shooting that happened at a school in British Columbia, Canada, not too long ago, a couple weeks ago. We did cover that. And the shooter in question literally talked all about this with the AI, with, I think it was ChatGPT. And, I mean, it was flagged, but it was not ultimately reported to authorities. This time it will tighten its rules and start reporting stuff more, because we don't want to pass off these red flags as if they're nothing, right? I mean, there was obviously more red flags as well. I mean, literally this guy had a map of a mall on a Roblox account, like literally Roblox mass shooter simulator at a Canadian mall. So like the signs were there. He was on their FBI radar, but I guess they didn't act on it. Well, we don't have FBI, we have RCMP. But what are they going to do? Now, apart from that, JP Morgan says crypto markets could get a significant boost in the second half of 2026 if the market structure bill passes. Thanks for confirming that. We already knew. Another thing I want to confirm, something that you already know, is that Vitalik just keeps on dumping. He sold another $2,832,000 worth of Ethereum in the past few hours. And in total, it's been $38 million of selling Ethereum this month. The OWN founder is just dumping on you guys. Initially, he planned to sell 16,000 ETH. But when Vitalik saw Ethereum was up 10% in a day for the first time in 4.5 months, he was unable to stop himself and dumped an extra 2,300 Ethereum. Thanks, Vitalik. You're awesome. Control Alt, a company, backed by Ripple, secures a $280 million diamond tokenization deal in the United Arab Emirates. Isn't diamond prices like crashing really hard? Can I check the price of diamond? How do I guess I'll just go here. I'm sure it'll show diamond here if we could see gold and silver. Well, there you go. Now I cannot find diamond. Diamond doesn't have a periodic table of elements, does it? Oh, here comes my IQ. Oh boy. Diamond, I don't know. Brother. Price of diamond. No, not a ring. Oh my gosh. Now this thing is going to start showing me ads about dating life. Relax. Diamond index. I just wanted to see the chart. Here is the chart. Yeah, this is what I'm looking for. Prices have been going down. Lovely. But anyway, I guess it's now going to be tokenized on the blockchain. Let's go TradFi and oh my gosh, what do you call it? Tokenize RWAs. That's what I'm trying to talk about. Okay, that's all I wanted to show. Now, Paramount, Warner Brothers, Netflix, remember all that? The war is finally over. Netflix lost. So Paramount Global has officially won the bidding war for Warner Bros. After Netflix has pulled out. This is breaking news. They stated that the acquisition was no longer financially viable, which means that Paramount, owned by Larry Ellison, will now control HBO, HBO Max, CNN, CBS, DC Studios, Cartoon Network, Adult Swim, Paramount Plus, Nickelodeon, MTV, Showtime, TNT, Comedy Central, Turner Classic Movies, and DC Comics. I only know I know a good fair amount of these. I don't watch TV though, that's what I'm trying to say. This deal also includes major franchises and intellectual properties such as Game of Thrones, Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, Star Trek, Mission Impossible, Transformers, Conjuring, Quiet Place, Mortal Kombat, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Looney Tunes, Tom and Jerry, Beetlejuice, Gremlins, SpongeBob SquarePants, Avatar Last Airbender, and Dora the Explorer. Rest in peace, any Dora the Explorer fans out there. Anyways, moving on. No, but more about this though. Netflix had a $72 billion deal signed in December, and Paramount came in with a hostile takeover bid at $30 per share, and the Warner board called it the superior offer. How many shares do they have? Netflix said that matching it was no longer financially attractive. Pending regulatory approval, Paramount now owns Warner Bros. HBO, we already talked about that. David Ellison took control of Paramount last August and made this his top priority. 6 months later, he just reshaped Hollywood. David Ellison, I think this is the son of Larry. Larry Ellison, yes. So he's the one behind Paramount, and the father is behind Oracle, which owns TikTok now, I'm pretty sure. They bought it off ByteDance, or whatever it was. So there you go. Billionaires controlling the world, the media, and what you see and watch. In other news as well, Jack Dorsey, who, if you don't know him, he was the original creator of Twitter and sold it to Elon Musk. Yeah, so he also has a different company called Blocks. XYZ is the ticker, which owns other little companies like Cash App, you might have heard of, and a bunch of other irrelevant ones, but good startup companies. This guy's a great entrepreneur, I will give him that. Well, he announced today that he is making Blocks, the company, smaller in terms of people. He posted this huge Bible of a post, and I'm not going to read all that. Yeah, I'm not going to read all that. Maybe I should. I think I will. All right, I'll read it. Today we're making one of the hardest decisions in the history of our company. We are reducing our organization by nearly half, from over 10,000 people to just under 6,000 people. That means 4,000 of you are being asked to leave or entering into consultation. I'll be straight about what's happening, why, and what it means for everyone. First off, if you're one of the people affected, you will receive your salary for 20 weeks plus 1 week per year of tenure, equity vested through the end of May, 6 months of healthcare, your corporate devices, and $5,000 to put toward whatever you need to help you in this transition. If you're outside the US, you will receive a similar support, but exact details are going to vary based on your local requirements. Hey, can I get fired from your company, please? That seems like a pretty good deal. I want you to know that before anything else, okay. Why don't you capitalize or punctuation anyway? Everyone will be notified today whether you're being asked to leave, enter consultation, or asked to stay. We're not making this decision because we're in trouble. Our business is strong. Gross profit continues to grow. We continue to serve more and more customers, and profitability is improving. But something has changed. We're always seeing that the intelligence tools we're creating and using, paired with similar and flatter teams, are enabling a new way of working, which fundamentally changes what it means to build and run a company, and that's accelerating rapidly. I had two other options. It was either to cut gradually over months or years as this shift plays out, or just be honest about where we are and just act on it now. I chose the latter. Repeated rounds of cuts are destructive to morale, to focus, and to the trust that customers and shareholders place in our ability to lead. So I guess he's just figuratively ripping off the band-aid all at once. I'd rather take a hard, clear action now and build from a position we believe in that than manage a slow reduction of people toward the same outcome. A smaller company also gives us the space to grow our business the right way, on our own terms, instead of constantly reacting to the market pressures. A decision at this scale carries risk, but so does standing still. We've done a full review to determine the roles and people we require to reliably grow the business from here, and we've pressure tested those decisions from multiple angles. I accept that we may have gotten some of them wrong, and we've built in flexibility to account for that and do the right thing for our customers. We're not going to just disappear people from Slack and email and pretend they were never here. Communication channels will stay open through Thursday evening Pacific, so everyone can say goodbye properly and share whatever you wish. I'll be hosting a live video. Okay, I really don't care about this. To those of you leaving, I'm grateful for you. Sorry that you have to go through this, but you built what this company is today, and that is a fact, and I'll be honoring forever. This decision is not a reflection of what you contributed. It's that you will be a greater contributor to any organization going forward. And to those that are staying, I made this decision, and I will own it. And what I'm asking of you is to build with me. We're going to build this company with intelligence at the core of everything we do. And then you'll get fired. How we work, how we create, how we serve our customers will feel this shift too, and we are going to help them navigate it towards a future where they can build their own features directly, composed of our capabilities and served through our interfaces. That's what I'm focused on now. Expect a note from me tomorrow, Jack. It's basically, while people are making memes about AI, the first major company just laid off nearly 50% of their human staff because of AI agents. Yeah, it's awesome. We studied something that AI is taking over your job, basically. Bottom line, if you didn't read all that. And their stock price is doing excellent. It surged 25% after hours as the company cuts nearly 40% of its workforce, going from around, well, never mind. I guess I'll look up the chart in real time. Up over 20% after hours because he fired half his company. In 6 months, we're still down 31% though, so is that bullish, really? I mean, maybe. We'll see how the company continues to develop, of course, but I guess it's a start. Oh, the ticker is XYZ. I am slow in the brain. Here we go. Hey, look at that. So we went from $50 to $7. Lovely. So that's that. Block fired 4,000 employees, nearly half the workforce in favor of AI. The stock pumped over 24% after hours. CEO Jack Dorsey said that intelligence tools have changed what it means to build and run the company. This will not be the last time this happens. Yep, expect more of this kind of stuff in other big companies. And I do agree with it, I guess this. The real test would be, will productivity actually rise? Will the revenue hold? And does the product quality improve? Cost cutting pumps stocks short term. That's why we're rising, is because we don't have to pay these employees anymore. They're being replaced by AI. We spend less on salaries, although we will still give them some money. But investors, they view this as, hey, that's less debt that the company has to go through, more chance for profits and revenue and growth, etc. Execution determines long term. Yes, this trend is accelerating, but not every AI layoff story ends well. So, like I said, we'll have to wait and see how it goes. And that is all. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk, guys. That is all for tonight's stream. I ran out of news, but tomorrow we will talk about the PPI data that we are expecting. Hopefully it comes in favorable, of course. Why am I getting random countries that do not exist? Can I change that, please? Clear. The only country that exists is the United States. Save. There we go. Oh, we had jobless claims, I guess, today. What did we expect here? We had 208K revised, by the way. Why is everything just revised? Stop that. Get some help. Consensus was 215,000. Came in below expectations. Yeah, it didn't really impact market at all, honestly. And tomorrow's PPI data, so that's what our eyes will be on. So we're expecting inflation to be on the way down for producers. We'll see if it comes in line with our expectations at 0.3%. How do we determine this data? We want inflation to be on the way down to allow for rate cuts, of course. But we got PCE data that was incredibly high and GDP growth that was incredibly low. Last economic data, which Trump has blamed that already on the Democrat shutdown last year because it was for that fourth quarter of 2025. I don't know why we're getting it now. But yeah, that happened. And then, I mean, yeah, fears of inflation being on the rise again just hurts our chances for a rate cut. So we want this to be lower. Although, yeah, I guess if producers' inflation is lower, that should help reduce the costs for ultimately consumers. That's when we see the inflation reflected on our end being less inflation. After that, non-farm payrolls next week, Friday. Of course, the month is done. So we'll see how the jobs numbers come in as well. Because that's the two things that the Fed has to balance is the jobs market and inflation. Keep your dogs under control. What am I looking for? This. I just want to have a quick look at the odds again. Next meeting, it's guaranteed that we will not be getting a rate cut. 96% chance, so don't get your hopes up. We're going to suffer through one more meeting with, well, under Jerome Powell. And then it's looking like it's maybe a 50-50 for the meeting after that once Kevin Warsh steps in. But that being said, 1-2 rate cuts for 2026 is all we can see for now. The odds of a December rate cut, it's about 25 to 75, not in our favor for a third rate cut. We just have to see how economic data continues to develop, of course. So it's all just a waiting game. What do I expect? I'll still go with the safe number. I'll go with the 2 rate cuts that we could expect for this year. And if people are genuinely expecting 3, I think that's a little too bullish, maybe. I wouldn't complain, but I think it's too bullish. And I don't know how it's going to work out. Trump really wants rates cut by a significant amount, but it looks like even under Kevin Warsh that we will be getting as the next Fed chair, it doesn't even look like we're going to get that much rate cuts. So what are we even doing here? Now I understand they're supposed to act independently from the government, which, yeah, otherwise if the Fed is doing everything that president says, then that would also crash markets for uncertainty because it's like, okay, what is the purpose of the Fed then? If they're just going to be political about it. But other people argue that Jerome Powell was political about it, doesn't like Trump, favored Democratic policies, and, 50 basis point rate cut while Biden was president to try to improve the economic data during crucial times of elections between Kamala and Trump, for example. I don't know, that kind of stuff. Immediately stops cutting rates as soon as Trump enters office, holds them for a long time, decides to cut because, yeah, the economy started to take a bit of a hit in the second half of last year, or late quarter, I guess. So there's all that, of course. So yeah, we'll see. We're ending the stream here at Bitcoin's price at 67,000. We'll see where we end up tomorrow. I don't expect much of a rise, honestly, but it would all be really dependent on the economic data. So I think that would be a main driver, is how prices would move. I see Crypto Squid saying we'll have an update tomorrow or Monday. I think by Monday for sure. But tomorrow, I don't know. I'd be skeptical about it still because of the economic data that we're getting. Exercise caution. That's all I'm going to say about it, guys. Thanks so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Like, subscribe. I will see you tomorrow. Have a great rest of your evening. Bye.